And there we go. It's told us now that we are live. And yet again, you may not recognize the man next to me, but you have been on the show before. At least once, a couple times, I think you've been on the show before. And
Once that I
so,
can remember, but I'm getting
yes,
older now.
yeah, yes, yes. So I won't agree with that, but because that would be awkward. Um, I guess I could say the same thing. I'm getting older too. So
How old are you? Can I
I'm
can I know
40.
that right away? Okay, Katie and I were just wondering, and I said he's over 40, and she said under. So
Just for all, you're both wrong. So
yeah, we're
just 40.
Yay! Happy birthday!
Yes. Well, it's not my birthday.
Well, it's not your birthday, but hey.
Yeah, my wife's birthday's coming up, and so you can ask her what age she is. I'll leave that in her hands. So just hello to everybody that's jumping on. I see Berta's jumping on. Annette, wonderful to see you. Patty, wonderful to see you. Renee, happy to see you as well. These are our regulars that are jumping on. You should be able to see them commenting on the side there. And so they've been following what we've been doing for a long time. And so I don't know if any of them were on because it's been a while since you were on. And so I don't know that any of them were on the last time we had you on, but maybe. Okay, everybody take a second. You can share the video. And that's just what I'm going to do right now. Share it to my Facebook wall. And then we'll get into what we are going to talk about, which Rob and I basically just said, let's just start talking. And that's some of my favorite conversations are just sitting there talking with Rob. I remember fond time sitting on that couch in there or around the it's not the island there, but the counter right there in the kitchen over some apple pie that your wife has baked or some of your legendary pancakes and just talking about life and following God and all the strange things that happen as we stumble forward. So, and so what we're going to do tonight is I have, you can post your questions, you can post a dream, but just in taking advantage of having Rob on the live stream, Rob's one of my favorite people. And especially like when I remember when we moved out to PEI, we've been out here for 3 years, almost 4 years now.
wow, it's a long time.
It is, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's a long time.
But Rob and Katie, Rob's wife, were some of the people that we consulted. Like, what do you think about this? And does this seem like a God thing? And you guys spoke into that. We stayed at your house on the drive, and that was such a healing time being with you guys and praying with you guys and receiving prayer after going through a difficult season. And so I just so appreciate the stories the story that is Rob. It's not the stories that you have, the story that is Rob's life. And Rob spent a number of years leading the Burning Man team. And we've taught different courses together and just hung out and spent time together and outreaches, all kinds of different stuff. We just love each other. So I just thought, let's just open it up. Rob's got some stuff on his heart. Like he tends to be very poetic, and so Rob, you'd mentioned that you had some.
Forgive me in advance.
Yeah,
He talks in mysteries.
Yeah, yes, and so he may talk circles around you, but but yeah, at the very end, you'll at least wonder. That sounded really cool. I don't know what he said though.
Go and find what this means.
Yeah, go and find what this means. That's right.
We have a house guest here, and they're going through some ministry. It's kind of like we have this revolving door living room kind of thing. It's sort of our life. I mean,
yeah.
But anyways, they were asking me a question about something, and I don't know. For some reason, I was talking about you and how I met you, and I said, to my recollection, I think we're in England.
Yeah, yes.
I was with Scott and Reese, who were kind of elder brothers in a prophetic evangelism at the time, And then I don't know, we were doing an outreach kind of thing, and then I met you guys. You were in the church office, I believe, the little church office. You,
Right.
a couple other guys, streams in
Yeah. And
time.
where were we at? We were in, what was that little
Cheltenham?
city?
Was it Cheltenham?
Cheltenham. Yeah, that's right. We were in Cheltenham. We were going to go to Stonehenge.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know if we invited you or you intended to go, but I said basically.
Yeah, we came. Well, we came from. There was Chris and I.
Yeah.
We came from the Streams internship, and so I think it was either you or Reese. No, it must, because that was the first time I met you, so it must have been Reese invited whoever was an intern with Streams that wanted to go, and two of us took him up on the offer. And
was that there in England or on the other side?
The invite?
Yeah.
No, the invite was in Canada. He came up to the intern program in Canada, the Streams intern program,
Yeah.
and invited us to come out. So
Okay, that helps you get my story more accurate.
yes, yeah. So when we met up, we had just gotten to Cheltenham when we met up with you guys, because you had been doing some stuff previously, and then we were going to get together and do the Stonehenge thing.
Yeah, and I didn't know how new you were at this, but going to Stonehenge is a really interesting thing. Like,
yes,
being the presence of the essence of Father into it, and that's sort of like the way we conceived. We're carrying light, we're carrying love, we're carrying spirit, we're carrying the essence of heavenly qualities. Of course, you can't do it without that.
Yeah.
So, there we are at Stonehenge. Stonehenge opens. It was the solstice.
Yeah.
So their religious laws say that the Druids have a right to their religious structures or whatever, right to access. So it was free to go there, and they actually take the fence down. It's the only time of year you can actually touch the stones.
Right. It was there was what, 30,000 people, I think they said there. It was,
I don't know.
It was a ton of people there. It was some crazy amount. Yeah. Then there was us. We were the.
Yeah. And it was a tough sell. There was a high amount of alcohol there, and it's always a tough to engage crowd. So I was just musing on what you guys might have thought, because we were probably equally befuddled of what we should do. And a witch saw us praying together when we had a circle, and
I remember that.
He was off to the side and said, "Oh." She moved over to us and said, "I see you're engaged in a sacred circle." And I remember Scott at the time was really getting engaged with her, and me and Reese are off to the side. She's just wasting our time. You've got to get rid of her. This is a tactic, And so, I was just musing on how odd it was, and that was my first meeting with you. It's like, if you're going to meet somebody, meet him in a
meet him in the oddest places. Yeah.
Meet him in a difficult situation and see if they wince.
Yeah, you said something to me that I have never forgotten, and this wasn't at Stonehenge. I think this was at the dinner afterwards.
Yeah.
And I definitely won't get it right. In what you said, like the way that you articulated it. But this out of all the stuff in Stonehenge, I mean, that was a gong show of an outreach. And I mean, fascinating to be able to walk up to the stones and actually put hands on stones that have been there for what, at 2, 3, 4,000 years. The jury's out on the exact amount of time, but thousands of years that they've been sitting there in the same way. Yeah. And we tried to, you had sent some of us off to do, we were approaching people with the idea of prophetic evangelism, right? And which you characterize what we were doing as prophetic evangelism seems like the wrong term nowadays, right? It's not just walking up to someone and saying, "Wow, look how much God knows you." Mm-hmm. It's, how do I draw someone into an encounter with the heart of God that transforms them and shows them that they're known and they're seen and they're loved? And so it's prophetic evangelism. I don't necessarily like the term because it kind of waters it down. And
exactly. Yeah, and I was just thinking, like, I remember, and I don't want to switch gears too much, but several
yeah,
years into Burning Man, I was talking to Scott Eveland, who was one of the original leaders of Burning Man, and I said, yeah, the prophetic evangelism is going good, and I was like, well, that's not really a good way to describe it. He goes, prophetic evangelism. I don't know what you're doing. You know, you're so far removed from whatever that was over there. You know,
right.
whatever that was over there, and so maybe to go back to earlier conversation before we got on mic, it said the prophetic is just our background software.
Yeah, that's right.
With
That's right. Yeah.
along with when you look at me, you see some element of the Father. You see some.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and so what you said at that dinner, it was something like this. Um, when the Father looks at you, and you said it directly to me, and you probably won't remember this at all, but I've never forgotten it. And it was a theological concept you were trying to communicate. And not so much theological in the sense that here's the dry way of thinking about it, but theological in the sense that awakens you. Oh my goodness, I never thought about it that way. And that's exactly how the Father is, right? And you said something to the effect that when the Father looks at you in this moment, to him, you are perfect. And because, he's not looking at all the mistakes that you made, and he's not looking at all the mistakes you're going to make, but he's looking at you presently right now in the here and now. And in his eyes, you're perfect.
Mhm.
And I've never forgot that. I was like, huh. And I was like, in the moment this was 13, well, no, probably 14 or 15 years ago,
Yeah.
2008. 2008 is when we went. So 13 years ago. And I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. Doctrinally, right? Because you get wrapped up in all the things that you're supposed to think.
Yeah.
But the more I've considered it, the more I've gone, okay, Rob has something there. And
You know, I was sorry to
go for
interrupt. I was just thinking. It reminds me of an old study of that word "perfect." Be thou perfect, or whatever. I used to. I learned,
yeah.
I learned my Bible King James, but
Yeah, Matthew 5.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
Sermon on the Mount, yeah.
yeah. So I think you look up the meaning of that. It means complete. Rather
Yes.
than, because in Western mindset we think perfection, and then you're in a quagmire there.
Yeah, that's right. Do all the right things.
With religiosity and
Yeah.
whatever.
God does all the right things, so you need to do all the right things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bad mommying and daddying in your life, or something comes flooding back to you where you're not perfect. So it's that would have been inherent in my voice if I could say that. I was, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
no theologian, that's for sure. But
You're what did you call yourself? A word architect? You said something like that at one point.
I'm more of a wordsmith, really. Yeah,
Yeah, you are. It's true. Yeah. And not that you're not, just so that nobody runs off, not that you're not concerned about
exactly.
accurately conveying the Father's heart, but we just recognize that m- um it seems that a lot of the ways contemporary Christianity and our modern culture communicates that it's, well, if you're just perfect enough, he'll love you. Or you'll have some. I was thinking about this the other day that when I really first met the tenderness of God's heart, it's probably back in 2005, 2006. And my life was a mess at that point. And I was reflecting on that it wasn't that he didn't withhold the realization of his tenderness. And that tenderness has literally become my prayer life over the last 15 years. that my prayer life is sitting in an awareness of that tenderness. And it's a lot of it's wordless, and maybe sometimes it's meditating on scriptures or the Lord says something to me that, but a lot of it's just wordless and sitting in that it's kind of like that tender heartache of the sweetness of God. And I realized that he didn't withhold it from me, right? He granted it to me,
Mhm.
but I didn't appreciate it until I started pursuing. And it wasn't until probably about 2 years after that moment that the sense of that abiding within me and being with me was consistent. And so as I started, and that was when I really there was a season where I had essentially had an experience where the Lord um, burned the dross out of my life, and it was a pretty dramatic 6-month period where I mean, I couldn't even turn a secular like music on or anything. I just couldn't do it. And it wasn't anything wrong with secular music. There's some phenomenal, obviously we have some phenomenal prophetic sounds in secular music, right? It's
Yeah, it's just this
God
people.
owns all the creativity.
Yeah,
There's nothing
yeah,
off limits to him. But what I recognized was he granted it to me without merit, and then he purified me so that I could contain it. And I didn't even do anything. I just showed up. That's all I did, right? I wasn't trying really hard. I was kind of a mess all the times. And, now I'm more aware of being a mess, but because of that, I'm less of a mess.
yeah, yeah.
Right. But it was like, it just
Dichotomy.
dawned on me. He revealed it to me and then he purified me so I could carry it. And, like it, because it sounds, so I'm saying that to say, like, you read the Beatitudes, right? And it says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And you go, my goodness, I can never do that. I can't be pure at heart. And it dawned on me that I didn't do it. I'm not the one who purified my heart. It wasn't my responsibility. It was his. He purified my heart so I could see him, so that I could carry him, so that I could be tenderly affectionate with him. And he worked the whole thing. And I just kind of like sat there in this realization that I hadn't considered the progress of that before. It was like, I didn't do anything to deserve this, and he just did it.
Yeah,
And it stunned me.
yeah. It's very transforming catching that moment like that when it all dawns on you.
Yeah.
It's the essence of he sends his son to an undeserving word. God so loved the world that he sends his son to a world that was spit on him, misinterpret his words, twist his words
Yeah. Yeah.
beyond, and culminate in the death of the cross. And it was the message is none of it was deserved. I mean, there was no way
Right.
to
Yeah.
earn all that giving.
Yeah.
The hardest struggle to me in those moments is just it's just such a religious killer, because there's nothing, you know. It's kind of a cliche to say, well, I didn't do anything to deserve it, but really, that's when the reality hits the road. Your experience there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I remember many years ago, I was struggling. I would struggle with depression quite profoundly for years, and there wasn't any really inner healing going on or anything like that, and
Right.
in my life or in my circle, anyways.
Right.
But I remember just crying out to God. I was living in a different place, in my kitchen or something, and going, God, And then I don't know. All of a sudden, he just breaks in on me and says, "I win."
I love that.
And God speaks to us different, and to me, God will speak to me very oddly, and
Right.
I have to couch it in with, I understood, like, the struggle, the battle,
Right.
what can I do better, if anything. And God just simply said, I win.
Oh, right. And that's simple
So
truth.
I win what I have envisioned in you from the beginning, from
Right.
this, what I've envisioned you from the foundations of the world before, when I thought your name,
Right.
I knew your name, where you'd be born, what you'd be doing. I will get my desire, and included in that is I will get my desire, but because I see your heart is really that way, even though you feel stuck, you feel trapped, you feel like there is no
Right.
answer, you know. And,
And you know what
that was the moment.
well, what intrigues me about that too is that I'm assuming in the moment all he said was I win,
Yeah.
But what's communicated to you is all that depth. And it's the one sentence, but it's like, I mean, you think about, I was talking with some friends today. I did another live stream today, and we were talking about this is going to seem like such a curveball to this whole conversation, but it's just got me
I don't
thinking.
know. Is there a direction here?
Yeah, I don't know. Eventually, we might get to some dreams. We'll see. But
I love the rudderless path. So
yes,
you're in good company here.
I just wish that we could be in the
Audience
same.
loves this.
I just wish we could be in the same room,
Yeah.
drinking coffee together or a beer together,
Yeah.
or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I was talking with some friends on a live stream today, and talking about how when we were talking about the Desert Fathers and how they approached temptations, and temptations having a spiritual source, right?
Mhm.
And so we were talking about how when they talk about lust or pride or greed coming to you and impacting your thought life, it's not just the thought of a woman or the thought of a dollar bill. Like, just the item itself has no attraction beyond, because it's just an object.
Mhm.
Not that a person is an object, I'm not saying that, but the image of the thing. And it's what is added to it by a lustful spirit or a deceitful spirit or a prideful spirit that gives it the drive into your heart that goes, I'm having trouble resisting this thing, right? There's more to it than just the thought itself, is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
The thought of the woman, the thought of the anger, the thought of the finances, all that stuff. There's a spiritual impetus that tries to drive it home to you, to attract you to it. And this is what the Desert Fathers talked about. So just as you're sharing, you got, that's like the dark side of things. And then you've got the flip side of things where God shares one thought, and the one thought is, I win, But with that one thought comes such a spiritual impetus directly to your heart, that in the same, but completely the opposite way, that pride can hit your heart and be so profoundly attractive to that prideful outburst, that the voice of God can hit your heart and everything can change with one sentence. And there's like 73 layers of meaning in that one sentence.
Yeah. I mean, so many scriptures flood, if I were the finger of God, cast out demons.
Right.
A finger is something very small. Something,
Yeah.
or Jesus, Jesus says in the garden, I am, and everybody crumbles to the ground,
Right.
There
One word.
reorders with a word. And like you said, there's volumes of meaning within the word,
Yeah, absolutely.
We do long, wordy sermons, and I think, and I'm as guilty as anybody for doing long, wordy presentations. Very guilty, but there's such a brilliance in the economy of words, and God does brilliance.
Right.
Well,
well, I told you earlier, I've got a new book that we're just making the final strides to releasing. And I can tell when I talk about this book is longer than all the other books. So, somehow it's more important because it's longer, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's right. There's more words, so it must mean it's better.
Yeah. There's a parallel here for me because I've been with COVID. I think one of the things with COVID is, okay, so you have more time in your hands. So the vision in the beginning of COVID was, oh, I'm going to write more. And
Right.
not for me. I just quit writing altogether. I didn't do any ministry newsletters. I didn't do anything
Right.
hardly. And then, the Tabernacle event came, and we were steering that whole thing. And I had a workshop on a spoken word with John Thomas, and so I had to write something. And so I ended up writing this epic long thing about picking up the little things and
Right.
finding your healing, finding God, finding a bigger venue, bigger arena would open up if you would be consistent on being a noticer. That was the essence of it. But it was so long. And then I followed up with a spoken word thing at our church it was so long. And I go, Rob, get a clue. You can't get up in the midst of worship and do an epic poem, can't do Homer's Iliad in the beginning.
Right.
Well, this is
As entertaining as Homer's Iliad is.
Yeah. And then, it's like, you just blew fuses. They lost you in the first, 3 lines. So I was all happy that I had this newer piece that maybe we'll read later, but it was short, concise, and it's, it's like, but I felt really good. I'm going back to Tabernacle. Man, the dam broke. I feel the freedom to express, and again, all that year and a half of barely writing. We live in the realm of eternity, the realm and God's imagination and God's thoughts toward us. So nothing is really lost. It's just
right.
Yeah. We got to stop beating ourselves up. This American, maybe Canadian performance thing, being in a profit nation that's very oriented toward what you produce and how you present it.
Yeah, and in a way, of course, the last year and a half is, especially most of 2020 was. There's not a whole lot you can produce.
Mm-hmm. True.
And that that is a hard thing to come to grips with, is that inner drive. That's not always a God thing.
Yeah. Or, like us, or, we're considered in ministry. So there's all these standards of ministry. And in a way, the way the world is flipped upside down and COVID and stuff, more people are really forced to re-examine ministry and get real with God about what it is. And it's refreshing to me because I couldn't do line item. I just, we never did it. And we're back to our original vision of we host God's presence in our living room, in a sense, alluding to how you felt when you came. And that's what we do best. We had a spiritual mom and dad, though, over on the other side of the states that just did that. And Harry Bazell from Apple Hill Lodge near Moravian Falls. He didn't know he was my spiritual dad in a sense, and mom for my mom, but we just absorbed the way they did life, and with this wonderful software in the background, like Father cares, we care. We could read you, but we don't make a ministry out of we can read you.
Right.
And they lived amongst all these prophets, but they had this lodge where people would come from all over the world. And I remember Harry saying, well, listen, I don't even go to another church. I've been to one conference in my life, or maybe 2, he said. And he was just...
You can't be a good Christian then.
He was just an outlier.
Right.
But yet the world came to him. I mean, you had to know where they were. They didn't advertise, but yet I don't know how many named people would come through the doors and just sit and spend a weekend there or have meals, and Harry would kind of hold court. And lo and behold, many, many years later, we kind of became that model
Right.
with
Yeah, you
our
guys do.
the way God made us, you know.
Should I post your address in the
Yeah,
chat so people can just
yeah. I don't know. People. If God builds it, they will find you.
Yeah. That's strangely akin to
Yeah,
theology by Field of Dreams.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. If you build it, they will come, right?
yeah. But the ministry model is if you build it, they will come. You know, the whole
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
you got to put a lot of sweat.
You know, I gave a friend a word one time. I was praying one morning, and I and that what the word I gave him was, I just felt like the Lord. I just texted him, right? It just, this may sound weird. It felt like the Lord said, "If you build it, they will come." That was all I said, right? And so that word became really impactful to him, and he was really, I mean, he was working with networks of leaders and all this kind of stuff, like really cool stuff he was doing. It still is doing. And at one point, the Lord corrected the word. It was like 2 years into it, and the Lord said to him, "No, Josh got it wrong." No, I said, "I didn't get it wrong. It just got updated, but Josh got it wrong." And it's not, "If you build it, they will come." It's, "If you build it, I will come."
Mm,
And it was such a, one word in the whole phrase changes the whole thing, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
but that is the prototypical, or the typical model, not prototypical. The typical model has been build it and people will come, and
yeah,
that's what validates it.
yeah.
And then you just you just keep talking about it over and over and over again, so more people come.
Yeah. And
And
it's funny at the same time we're talking about this, and I'm in total agreement. I can argue the other side that when you're in relationship with God, it, it, He'll bless the work of your hands. Period.
yeah,
So you will build something, but you know we coined the phrase in the early on. You know, God is our software and the Father is our software in the background. Intimacy, relationship, checking in with God, learning to check in moment by moment and check your heart.
right,
That sort of thing. That is the essence of life. You can go basically do what you want to do in a sense. You know,
right,
um, I had a board meeting maybe a week ago, and I have a great guy. His name's Gary on the West Coast, and he's about 75, and you know we just had this great board meeting that I was not bored. I hate my own board meetings. I mean, life is crazy, and you know, so I boldly invited Holy Spirit in right at the start, and guess what? He showed up, and Holy Spirit just, there was so much joy and so much transparency and laughing and praying for one another. And so Gary just said, you know, he goes, I was reading through Genesis, and I just had this moment with God that says, I was reading this marginal rendering or something, and you know how we always say that, well, Abraham was a friend of God, and
right,
he's the father of faith, and you know all this. But the way, and I'm going to do a very bad job of what my friend Gary said, but he basically said that God had faith in Abraham. We always look at it from the other side.
right,
Abraham had faith in God. It was accounted to him for righteousness, which is correct. But God had awesome faith in Abraham.
right, right,
The guy that passed his wife off as a sister and could have, you know, thrown into the harem, and you know, the guy that, oh, I'll take the servant woman and make this happen, and
right,
I'll build it, and I'll build it, and
Right.
progeny like the sands of the sea will come.
Yeah.
He did some knucklehead things,
Right.
but yet his essence was so dialed into God. A guy in a pagan land that just wakes up and suddenly realizes the reality of, God is there, the Almighty One, the Ancient of Days, and then he starts listening and starts following, and God has
Right.
full confidence, and later it's recorded, and I know Abraham that he will command his children after me. I am so confident in Abraham.
Right.
This
Right.
is a done deal. And man, oh man, when Gary was sharing with that, we all just said, "Whoa, we're having a moment here. This is good.
Yeah.
This is good." Yes, we have faith in God, but does He ever have faith in us? You know?
Wow.
Wow.
I love that thought.
Yeah. I've been loving
Yeah.
it for a whole week here. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Even though
Wow.
I am certified
He had
knucklehead at times.
Well, because he had faith in Abraham. Well, he had faith in Abraham before Abraham had any faith in himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had faith in Abraham full well knowing that Abraham was gonna do all the knuckleheaded stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Faith.
I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Like Renee says, God initiated the covenant with Abraham,
Yeah.
even full well knowing that Abraham wasn't gonna, he wasn't gonna perform all the right ways, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Renee's thought of it. I was in my meditations after Gary said it, I was thinking like, so God does this, cut the animal in half and the two doves and two pigeons
Right.
and whatever, and walks through. I'm going, how do you walk through that with the Almighty? I don't know. Did Abraham start to walk through and God just lifted him up and moved him through the path through I don't know.
Right.
I just my imagination goes wild on that one, going
Right.
what faith he had, because there's nothing in Abraham that could fulfill that covenant, really. Like I'm making a covenant with you, Abraham. Just nod your head and then walk through this stuff.
Yeah. Just go, yeah. Just say yes.
Just
Yeah.
just obey me, okay? No.
Well, and I guess on some level, his yes was greater than his doubt, right?
Yeah.
And it's in it. Well, no. I'm just looking at Berta's comment here. This is something to ponder. Does God have faith in me? And
that's what we're getting at. Yeah.
Yes. And that's kind of where the conversation's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he knew us from the Genesis, from the beginning, I mean, it's pretty profound to think of that. And that's, ironically, that's the basis of when I do a father's blessing over people. I always take them back to somewhere in the murky before time began.
Right.
In the realm of eternity, God looked at us and had full cognizance, put a download in our spirit. So, going back to Abraham, that download was in his spirit when, he's looking around at this awful pagan culture going, this is not right. This is not right. I don't get it. There's something more here. That eternity in his heart was just that's
right.
Light that his spirit carried that was just flickering, and he had enough. He must have had what I call one of the most sacred thing God puts in humanity is hunger. And the second most thing maybe is free will. And, he's always dangling the carrot.
We always go backwards. Huh?
Yeah.
You got me thinking. The most sacred thing he puts in humanity is hunger. Because we would normally say the most sacred thing he puts in humanity is free will. But one of the first things he says is, of every tree in the garden, take and eat. So
Well,
I'm gonna
no, I
I'm gonna be pondering that thought for a little while.
yeah, I haven't. You're the theologian, which I. but I'm the poet that just stumbles my way into, the burning.
You're the one who makes me think all the time with what you say.
Well, this is why theologians should hang out with poets, and then
Yeah, there you go.
we
That's
should
right.
run the boards. We should run.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, I'm just thinking like how we've so missed that part of it. That he gives them an assignment, right? Obviously, name the animals and be fruitful and multiply. But some of it, the first things he says is take and eat, meaning he gave them hunger.
Yeah, and also go back to my favorite image.
I'm still stuck on this. Okay, Rob.
I know. Well, I'm going to add to it with this description is just your dad. You had babies. What's the healthy sign of a baby? They're hungry.
Right.
They're hungry and they make messes. That's the two most salient things.
I'm taking notes right now. So
and they're cute as all get out. So as a father, as a mother, our heart goes out to them, and we are thrilled that they are eating and they're hungry. And then as they, get more cognitive, as their brain gets more online, that whole increased myelination of the nerve sheath or whatever scientific thing, or their brain gets more online, they get more cognizant, or
right.
then their free will comes in. That's my point. The hunger comes first, and that desire and that connection, and then they don't have any idea of free will.
That's right.
It comes a little later when you go, wow, they're really adamant about things, but yet I put hunger first.
Yeah, I'm taking notes right now because I've got to think about that.
Good, share it with me because I forget this stuff.
Well, eventually I'll write a book for you.
I love hanging out with you because it's always like you spark me and I write down the things you say.
Yeah.
Isn't that, I'm always harping on people like, fellowship. You talk about fellowship. You talk about, all right, kumbaya, do whatever the church needs to do. But it's really walking in the light as he is in the light. And then the fellowship is based in joy and mutual recognition. And suddenly you go, hey, I'm alive with him. I see him in you. You're pretty alive too. Right.
Right. I wonder, this is not shifting gears, only it is kind of shifting gears.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if Hannah Jones is still on, because she sent a dream in that just actually kind of in a way it is in line with what we're talking about.
Okay.
And so I'm wondering if Hannah is on. She was on earlier, and just like if she's on, we'll go to this stream. There's a little bit of a delay, so we'll have to see if she responds. If not,
no problem.
We can just keep talking about it. But I kind of think this dream would get us even deeper into the weeds.
Okay.
So, Zothili, yes, you can still send dreams. I don't know. We're 45 minutes into an hour-long live stream, so we're not going to get to too many of them if you do, but we'll keep them on for next week. I don't see Hannah, so maybe she's not on. Well, and I wanted to do that one. Can you answer question? Can you answer? What's your question, Renee? From earlier? Let's see. I know you had a question earlier. Oh, shapeshifters. Here, I'll get Rob to answer this question. Have you dealt with any shapeshifters before, Rob?
Not knowingly.
Not knowingly.
I draw a blank on that one.
We had a.
I mean, well, you know, Burning Man. Yeah.
I'm not going to go into details of the story, but I think we dealt with one once. That's a story for a different time. This is in dreams. You see that question?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. What does it mean when your dream has shapeshifters? I shapeshifted from a human to a wolf. The whole dream was about seeing the shapeshifters.
Hmm.
And Hannah is on, so we'll do her dream. What do you think about that?
You know, my grid lately for doing dreams is a lot of inner healing. So I'll be not seeing her face to face. I'll ask, okay, first of all, we'll always make sure the ground is clear. Your spiritual ground is clear. Like, did you ever have any involvement with spiritual disciplines outside God for transformation, you know, out of body experiences, whatever. And so I always make sure the ground is clear because I don't have a revelatory word on what that means in particular. But, you know, so I always ask that question.
Right.
And then, you know, sometimes we have to go, oh, you know, maybe if it's negative, especially if it's really negative, focus there. And I don't know where that was going within the context.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's oh no, Hannah, your comments are showing up. I can see them. They're just showing up on YouTube and not on Facebook. So that's normal. Renee said she's done recent deliverance on yourself from yoga Kundalini. Did you have that dream? Did you have the dream before that happened or after that happened? And normally shape-shifting into a wolf wouldn't look at as necessarily a good thing.
I wonder if she's had her third eye, if anyone's prayed over her third eye.
Right. Renee, especially if you've been involved in dream was after, I think, if if she was involved with yoga. Were you involved with yoga? I'm assuming if you did deliverance that she says my what?
Yeah. Well, you know, they'll focus a lot on pineal gland
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And our friend Arthur Burke calls it the seat of dominion, and there is a purpose for that, but it's not for dark psychic use,
which is what yoga would do in Kundalini.
The enemy wants to twist every spiritual or natural aperture in our body or component in our body. So we make sure that's, you know, we'll just simply lay hands on it and
right.
Speak it, you know, Lord, cleanse that from every dark use and leave it open for your light,
right?
Your truth,
right?
Simply put, there's a prayer for you. You know,
yeah.
There's a little bit. You know, it's common to have a little bit of cleanup work after deliverance, or
yeah. And Renee, just post the dream in our Facebook group, because we can do some work on that in the Facebook group too. It'll be a better place to do it. Okay, I'm going to bring up Hannah's dream. This is the one I wanted to do before I sideswiped you with Renee's intense question.
It's a good question, Renee. Thank you.
Yeah, it is. Okay. This is Hannah's dream. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, I'll read it out and then we'll work through it. Two of my sisters in Christ and I were all in a dark room. I love this dream, by the way, also for your inner healing bent as well. We were in a circle type arrangement standing up. We were wearing white nightgowns and underwear slips. Then a black nightgown came, and it went onto the sister to my right over her white nightgown, and she was grieved deeply and crying. Then the same to the other sister. I was waiting for it to come upon me, but it didn't. In my dream, I didn't feel relieved by that. I was worried and wondered how I was different from them, thinking and waiting for someone else to happen. There was a human figure in the corner just watching in the shadows and never moved or said anything. So if you have questions, we can ask questions from Hannah too.
Does your audience, do you allow space for your audience to try to work it out?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Before you give the punchline.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, we control everything that's said. So.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that what stands out to me most notably is the expectation is that the grief that has hit others and the darkness that's hit others is going to hit me too.
Mm.
And when it doesn't, there's still, oh no, it's still going to happen. Yeah. And that's that fear that the bad things that have happened to other people, it's going to happen to me too. And even when it doesn't happen, I'm still concerned it's going to happen. And there's that
Yeah, and the whole setting's in a dark room, so we could say with confidence that that's not a plan for your life at all.
No.
This is definitely some sort of intrusion by the enemy to play upon some fear that's in you. You know, this could happen to me.
And I wonder,
gratified that gown only goes on the outward surface. If I could just sort of play with that a little bit.
Right.
You guys are all essentially dressed in white.
Right. Even though the dark gown goes over, it's still underneath the layers is still white. Yeah, that's really good.
What's close to the skin or close to your heart is this essence of God loves you in your worst moment. God knows your destiny, design, and purpose. Come hell or high water, so to speak.
Right.
You've got this.
Yeah. No matter what came over you, still.
Yeah.
Underneath it all, there's redemptive hope there.
Yeah. So there's essentially some fear plaguing you that you need to dialogue with.
I wonder Hannah, how did you feel about this guy that's standing in the corner? That's what I'm. Did you see anything about him? Listen, he intrigues me. Was he dark? Was he neutral? Was he just hidden? Was he just watching? Yeah, Sarah says fear of failing God and just waiting to be marked. And while I'm just waiting for Hannah to answer that question, it's the when you have a dream like this, that's just we're in a dark room, dark things are happening. I'm afraid, I'm grieved. I'm afraid of this grief. I'm afraid of these things happening to me. We would say this is not a dream from God. This is a dream that shows us a fear. But one of the things that you need to know, Hannah, is that this we can prophesy our own demise, but this dream is not prophesying your demise. This dream's not telling you that bad things are going to happen. This dream's telling you there's an underlying fear that says the bad things that I've seen happen to other people are going to happen to me. And you need to know that that fear is not true, because when the Father saw you, when the Father created you, as Rob was sharing earlier, that statement that so impacted me is that when the Father sees you in this present moment, he looks at you through the lens of perfection, completion. I like that language. That when he sees you, he sees a woman that's complete. He doesn't see someone that's incomplete. And so the dream shows you that this is the opposite of the Father's perspective.
Yeah, I just wondered about the human figure.
Yeah.
A couple of things about you, Hannah. I wonder how much of a burden bearer you are. I think you are very spiritually sensitive. That's not a big prophetic word. It's just my sense on how empathetic you are and how much you carry stuff. Maybe a little too much. Us. I'm a card carrying burden bearer, and I always have to like pause in my empathy and go, God, I just give this to you. This, like, I'm not going home with this. Try to carry less and less, and I don't want to be overwhelmed by fear, especially.
Right.
That kind of thing will just fear, obviously, will just mess up a legitimate ministry of carrying God's heart for people. It carries it too far, and even to the part of overwhelming. So, I wonder about that human figure. I also had the thought, like, I wonder, how visual you are, if you can dialogue with God about that post stream and say, what was that, Lord? Maybe you get another dream, maybe
Yeah.
is that a figure in my life that somehow scripted me that way, an authority figure that's that inner healing
Yeah.
coming out from me.
Yeah, and it's one of those dreams that, just with what you're saying, Rob, too, I wonder if Hannah has seen other people that are burden bearers that have been,
Yeah.
that haven't navigated that well, right?
Yeah, it happens, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of them. They're legitimate burden bearers, spiritually sensitive, and all that's very honorable. That's the way God made us, made you. But to walk the path of that is we find it all the time. It's very difficult to walk the path of healing to where you're not caring.
Yeah.
People are not allowed to project on you. You're not allowed to take it on. And to have this healthy, Lord, this came. There's a part of this where I see people, stuff happening to them, and I'm empathetic enough to connect with God and go, all right, what's in the opposite spirit that I can minister in here? Just like we're doing with your dream tonight, like going,
Yeah.
this is not a script for your life, Hannah, at all. This is not. But yet within the dream, it points to some things that are wonderful about you, and we are bound by God's love to just accentuate the positive here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Renee's asked this question, so we can flip it then.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Well, anytime you see what the enemy intends to do, which is to bring that same grief that has impacted others, you can say, well, that's not the intent of God. God's intent is not to destroy you. We look at the words of Jesus where he says, or when it's spoken about Jesus in John 1, in him was life, and that life was the light of men. The opposite of that is the enemy is there to kill, steal, and destroy. And so if the enemy is there to kill, steal, and destroy, and we see in this dream a way that he would do that, and yeah,
A way to increase a way to increase a corner of your thinking. That's it's
Yeah.
that you can open God into, essentially.
And like Rob said, I wonder if if you are a visual person and you walk in a strong connection with the heart of God, you could revisit that dream and ask Jesus where he is in it, and ask him to show you who's this other guy over here, and what's the source of this fear. That's the kind of dream that's an invitation, in the same, it's a fear dream from the enemy, but it's an invitation from the Lord to say, let's address this fear, let's unpack this together. And so if you're comfortable doing those kind of things, and that's something that you're versed in, that's something you can definitely pray through on your own, and really find what the Lord wants to do there. And if it's not something you're necessarily versed in, then if you have people around you that can help you pray through that, that would be incredibly helpful. Or invite others in. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, Sarah. Others that are comfortable helping you with that. And if all else fails, you can send a message to myself, and we'll try and get you connected with someone that would help you pray through that. Yes.
Yeah. And just ask God to line you up with the right person.
Yeah.
And then just be patient about it. Don't go looking around for the right person. I find.
Yes. Yeah. So Hannah, I just bless you with the confidence to know that God has you, that the Father cares for you, that the Father loves you, and that the Father has drawn you close, and that the things that you see happen to others are not the plan of God for your life. So I bless you to be in that place of his care and his compassion and his tenderness and his mercy. That should be consciously aware of that. Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ultimately, when you're getting back to Renee's noticing, flip the dream.
Yeah.
I boldly said, in our economy, there is really no bad dream, because we have this ability to rise above with a heavenly viewpoint. Go, let the weak say, I'm strong. Let the poor say, I'm rich. This shall not befall you. This is just the dark side of a promise, the negative
right
of the steal, kill, and destroy issue. There was something to steal, kill, and destroy. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, there's the enemy wants to steal, kill, and destroy because there's something of value there.
There's something there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's the call of God on your life.
Probably
too.
When we see that steal, killing, or destroying, or fear, we go, okay, where's the treasure here? Who are these people?
Right.
That's a big tip in dream interpretation. I'm much more comfortable doing it eyeball to eyeball, but it still carries. Just with over this medium.
Yes. There is no distance in the spirit, but it's really nice to have someone right in front of you.
Can I give you a father hug? It's really.
Yeah, that I know. Yeah, you can tell.
I've been at a Zoom call,
Yes.
Or whatever.
She says thank you. So
you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome, Hannah. Yeah, you're precious in the eyes of the Father.
Yeah.
And he does have a plan for you, a good plan. And you do care. And here's the thing. I want to say this about Hannah. Hannah, you have a heart to care for other people. And the enemy is trying to convince you that you're going to get hurt in that, but you're not going to get hurt in that. The Father will care for you. Rely on him, lean into him, bend into him. And I think that's essentially what you were saying about that burden bearing thing. Yeah.
God made you that way, and he likes it.
Yeah, that's right. He made you that way. He likes it. I like that. Okay. Well, we have just reached, we're over an hour now. Look at that. You want to go for 2 hours, Rob?
No, but I can do that word.
Yeah. Do your spoken word thing.
I don't know. I just feel like it'll leave a deposit.
Yeah, do it.
Considering. So I call this knowing as we are known, and a little autobiographical start here. I'm listening to Dreams of Heaven from Morning Star Worship. The atmosphere changes amidst the applesauce cooking in the next room. Outside, a seemingly endless stream of blackbirds fly through, past the immediate view to an unforeseen resting place. And this is what gets distilled with the help of a pen. These are the days when to know as we are known will become a reality. It does require love burning, courage, and a surrender to the flames with joy. Love never burns without the beauty of joy in sight, without his penetrating eyes before us. We never possess the fuller melody of who we are. If we never possess the fuller melody of who we are, who will hear it? Weak and breathless, we cross the torn veil, are grasping at numerous new day dawns, become the glory of greater light days. We reflect the embrace that takes our breath away. The very breath he gave, he gives back again and again. In the swirl of the dance, it's this close. This is not an option. There's a world of void out there that knows this exists. This is not an option. But what, or rather who, the church needs to look like. In a world groping in the dark for a face of recognition. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
There was weight on that.
Yeah, I thought it's the most bridal message I've had in a while.
Yeah.
Father Heart, it was very bridal.
Yeah. So. It's a season of intimacy. It really is.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are going to do, everybody, we've got, tomorrow is the Dreams You Dream live training webinar. We're starting it up. So there's a link you can go to register for that. So that if you some of you have taken that before, some of you haven't. And, but that's our intro to dream interpretation, giving you some basic principles to work through. We'll be going for 5 weeks from tomorrow through the middle of December. Yeah, so I'd encourage you to take that out. Take a look at that. We start tomorrow evening. Rob, is there any way they can get a hold of you besides your Facebook, where you post?
Oh yeah, you're welcome to try me at Facebook. It's probably the
most direct place you post funny meme.
If I see Josh on your existing friends, whatever thing, I'll friend you back, and then you can message. All right. Me. How's that sound?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Can you pray over our group
here? Yeah. Father, thank you. You're in all the nuances of the conversation here, and the people listening and engaging. And I pray that the kind of atmosphere that we felt tonight and the intimacy is not a one-off, but I pray for endless days of God touches for all of us. Increase the depth, increase the encounters, and open our eyes to see you in the smallest things, because I really believe you're in the details of our circumstance, even in the details of Hannah's dark dream. Help us to see the flip in everything. That ultimately we see this message of God saying, I have faith in you. I chose you from the beginning. I know where you're at now, and you're loved and complete in my vision. And in that completeness, in that love, I'll carry you through to your ultimate design, destiny, and purpose. It's a seal deal in God's imagination, in his heart. Amen. Make it so, Lord Jesus.
Amen. Yeah. There's a link to Rob's Facebook profile in the video description, so you can peep on him there and see when he posts. You post interesting thoughts quite often, or funny memes. So, yeah. So,
yeah, you can also request to be on my kind of mailing list where
that's a good list to get on.
Poetic things come through that I don't always want to be as open with intimate stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, that's a good list to be on.
So.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining. And Rob, thanks for joining us. And thank you so much for your heart for this group.
Thanks, Josh. It's been a delight to talk to you.
It is.
It's like you never left.
Next time it'll just be, we'll have to be next to each other.
Yeah. Say hi to Aaron for us.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah. You don't close the screen yet. We'll say our proper goodbyes after the end of the broadcast. See everybody. See you later.
Bye-bye.